headcount, is three priority areas that I've sort of been able to filter out looking over all the data. Education in every possible way, in every possible form, in every possible demographic. Just a lot more education about the basics of climate change. Gotta figure out how to do it and who to do it with and to make it happen. A lot of education. Secondly, a lot more planning. So for instance, TBX, it's been in the planning stage since the 90s, and if they actually vote for it and get the money going, that's still 10, 20 years out before it ever happens. Well, let's just give you an example out of that. The approaches to all the major bridges by 2050 will be underwater. That's not built into TBX. We actually ought to be, if we were in South Florida, now is when you would start the planning process to deconstruct the nuclear reactors at Turkey Point, so you actually have the radioactive material removed before the sea washes over. And so
instead they want to build 2 more reactors.
No.
And so the planning point is really a big point, because when you talk about major infrastructure, you have a 20, 30-year window required to do major infrastructure. And when you look at, by 2050, 2 feet more of sea level in Tampa Bay, there's a whole lot of infrastructure that is just compromised. And people are going to be wondering why they can't get water on Wednesdays, because the system's been shut down for a day as we report where our water's coming from. Already, all of the wells in Pinellas are compromised by seawater. So the groundwater, Pinellas does not pull any water out of the ground anymore. See, these are just basic educational things, and they feed into the planning cycle. And then the third priority is activating this citizenry. So some of us spent a lot of time wahooing the island president a year or so ago, which was the story of how democracy came to the island nation of Malawi. Is that right?
No,
Maldives. Thank you. Maldives, yeah. And so at the end of our time, the question I put to folks was, do we have the infrastructure that we need to do what needs to be done? Because everyone is saying, well, we need to do this, and we need, well, who's the we when we say, we need to do more education? Well, who's that we? Oh, you say the school district. Oh, yeah? Well, who's going to tell the school district? You know, so we don't have the infrastructure, the social infrastructure that we need to be real about whatever the climate action stuff is. We have to start, and groups like this, and network